Good afternoon and greetings again from Tucker, Georgia. I'm Mayor Frank Auman. Today's Friday, April the 3rd, and this is the fourth Friday in a row that I've come to you with an update on our response in the city of Tucker to the coronavirus, which means it's been 3 full weeks of learning to understand this disease, how it spreads, and the best way to slow and stop it ultimately, both as individuals and as a community. So while today's update comes in the midst of increasing infection and the great loss of life that goes with it, it also comes with some really good news about our progress and from around the country and the state and right here in Tucker. I first want to thank everyone who's been making sacrifices to protect themselves and their families and each other and the people they live, work, play, and pray with. Adjusting our lives to combat this disease has been much more difficult, and it's taken a lot longer than we might have imagined 3 weeks ago. We can each be grateful to our neighbors for the steps they've taken in this fight. And I've seen and been told just countless stories about people helping people, individuals, as well as businesses who've contributed supplies and money and time and other resources to help us all get through this. Beyond that, it's worth pointing out that we're really in a special place. We are literally next door to the CDC, Emory University, the Yerkes Primate Center, Georgia Tech, University of Georgia, and a whole range of researchers and scientists who are working on this problem and who actually live right in our neighborhoods. They're doing tremendous work. They are the people who are looking for therapies and vaccines, treatments, and a way to stop this thing. And so I hope you'll go out of your way to offer them a special word of thanks and gratitude, maybe say a special prayer for them as they continue their difficult work. So the latest development in response to the coronavirus outbreak is the emergency order issued by the governor last night. As you know, local governments like Tucker and all the other cities in DeKalb and elsewhere, even the county governments themselves, have a duty to their own community to respond to emergencies. And for the last 3 weeks, much of the time of our staff, our council, myself, our tremendous advisory panel has been taken up consumed with daily decision making around that. We do that in light of the specific needs of our citizens and the best methods to protect ourselves and our city from a range of imminent threats. We did that with one goal in mind: to achieve the greatest possible compliance with the health guidance being issued by our public health authorities, including the CDC, the Coronavirus Task Force, and the Georgia Department of Public Health. We did that by declaring a legally enforceable policy that requires everyone, individuals or businesses, in the city to comply with that guidance, including staying home as much as possible, closing businesses that could not comply because of the nature of their business, and strict adherence for every business that wanted to try to continue in business at some level. Rather than pick winners and losers, we sought to preserve as much freedom and ability to innovate as possible, and it's been very successful. I've had lots of businesses tell me that things they've challenged themselves with during this crisis will become regular practices for them when it's over. Thanks to the citizens of Tucker, compliance here has been excellent. In general, as a community, we've weathered the storm very well so far. Over those 3 weeks, every city in Georgia, 538 cities in Georgia and 159 counties, has each had their own policy and gone their own way according to what their community needed. That includes small and large, urban, residential, metro, densely and sparsely populated, industrial areas, residential, every variety all over, agriculture, every variety all over the state has been doing things their own way for their own communities. So for those reasons, and in light of new health data and health guidance, Governor Kemp determined that it was time for a more aggressive and a more uniform policy for the state. Last night he published that policy, and we're very pleased with what he's done. The governor had to face the same questions we've been facing for the last few weeks, beginning with how do we get the greatest level of compliance while doing the least damage to economies, families, and other institutions in our community. And he had to figure out how to act in a way that's appropriate for the whole state, rural and urban, but also places where there are hotspots and places where there's very little evidence of the virus so far. He's had to deal with a policy that was suitable for industry, small business, individuals of all kinds. And it's a tall order. The good news is he did a great job not only attacking the virus at its root, but at balancing civil liberties, individual responsibility, and the economic calamity that could be awaiting us at the end of this crisis if we're not mindful of it now. His order, like Tucker's, also declines to tell every business whether they can continue or not, and whether workers of various kinds can continue to earn a living. He only has two classes of business in his order: critical infrastructure and everything else. As in Tucker, all are allowed to continue if they can comply with the health guidance, and it's spelled out in his order. Except for a relatively small list of businesses, also like ours, who just simply can't comply and have to either fully or partially close. For individuals, it orders everyone to stay home as far as possible, except for meeting their basic needs and traveling to work in places that meet all the health requirements. We've posted his order on our official website, tuckerga.gov/coronavirus, so that you can read it there for yourself. So what does that mean for Tucker? In most ways, it won't mean a lot of change for most of you. If you've been sheltering in place, keeping your distance, sanitizing your hands and surfaces, you're already doing what you need to do. We know a lot more now about how to prevent this disease and protect each other from it, and I hope you're finding comfort in knowing what to do. Please be patient with each other. As soon as we can get past the worst of this, we'll all start getting back to work and as normal a way of life as possible. For me and the City Council and our staff and our advisory panel, it means we can turn our attention to two important topics. One is pressing forward on the work of the city, and the other is concerning ourselves with the human need of our friends and neighbors. As you know, we have several important road and sidewalk projects underway, and as long as those contractors are able to continue, we'll press ahead while traffic is light. We'll continue to plan for the future, enforce our codes, and provide all the city services as best we can. The other topic is one that's much less tangible, but much more important. Perhaps the single thing that stood out to me most in Governor Kemp's statewide town hall last week was his mention of the increasing reports of domestic abuse and decreasing reports of child abuse. While incidents of both are up, there are noticeably fewer reports of child abuse because teachers are typically the first to see the signs and are required to report it when they do. With school out, that simply isn't happening. It's a sad fact that during this very difficult, stressful time, some people will lash out, even at those they love the most. Others have or will lose income, substantial income, suddenly. They'll be in need of food or medicine and other practical help. I'm asking our staff to post on the same website resources you can use or recommend to someone you may know. If you find yourself or a family member unable to cope with the incredible stress, the very high demands of this crisis, please seek help. If you have needs, large or small, simple or complex, we want to help you get the help you need, and we're working on ways to connect you to it. And on that note, one final word of encouragement. Many of you know that my wife, Gay, spent 15 years as a public school teacher in the earliest grades, and she's a big fan of Mr. Rogers. In times like these, she likes to remind us of the advice he gave to young children. He said, when I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, look for the helpers, that you'll always find people helping. There are many people helping in Tucker. They're helping by continuing to provide groceries and other basic needs. They're helping by providing medical services, delivery services, keeping businesses open, even at very reduced levels. They're helping to find the treatments we need when we're sick, and they're helping to provide the space we need to get out of the house once in a while. They're helping neighbors get through this incredibly difficult time. Please be a helper. Please don't lose your sense of hope or humor. Every day we're getting closer to the end of this thing, and every day you can do something to help. God bless you, and I can't wait till we can all be together again on Main Street.